Okay, so this might be a fun video. I recently picked these up from my friend Mike. Thank you, Mike. And each one of these has some issues with them. If this takes a while to fix up, then I'll split this up into several videos. Otherwise, this will be one video and it'll be chapter coded. So first and foremost, we got two 128Ds. Actually, these are 128 DCRs. The CR stands for cost reduction. Metal cases, and the ones with the plastic cases, usually found in Europe, are the higher end, so to speak. The keyboard slips underneath the case. It's got a handle and everything. They're pretty cool. But these are darn cool in their own right. So we got these. We got a 1084S monitor. The monitor doesn't work. Comes with the keyboard. At least one of the devices has the keyboard, so that's nice. So I'm told that the drive on this guy here does not work. The monitor does not work. And the bottom has a few switches. There's some switches for the drive select, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's a drive reset or a system reset. I don't know. We'll see when we open it up what those are. Two resets. One's a drive, one's a system reset. And I was told the third button is not connected to anything. So I have some plans. So let's take a look at these one at a time. And we'll start with the monitor and go from there. All right, so stay tuned. Okay, so let's start with the monitor here. So first and foremost, the little door, as usual, common, is got one of the tabs broken. So we'll 3D print a tab and see about repairing that, getting this door back on. So we'll deal with that. Let's see about turning this thing on. There's three typical things that go wrong with the 1084S monitors. One is the switch. Sometimes it stays either off or on. And the other is the flyback transformer or the capacitors surrounding the flyback transformers. So probably one of these three things is wrong with this. That's just typical of these monitors. So let's go ahead and plug it in, turn it on, and see what we've got. Now, I've already taken the liberty of there's 5 screws, 4 in the back. Actually, all 5 are in the back. But I've already taken the screws out, so we can slide the back out. And let's see what we've got to work with here. Okay, so got the cover off. Basically, the cover slides out after you take the 5 screws in the back off. And this plug goes right there. It's the speaker. It's the audio output. So you want to unplug that carefully. I can't emphasize this enough. I'm sure others do as well. When you're working with CRTs, be careful of high voltages. Be careful what you touch. Normally, I will discharge the tube right away, but in this case, I need to turn this thing on and get a feel for what is wrong with it. So I have this plugged in, and first thing we're going to do is turn it on. Okay. So there's no power light, and I don't know if you can hear it, but there is a whining sound. Okay, so I don't know if you can hear that or not, but that whining sound is highly indicative of the flyback transformer. So no LED means there's no high voltage. There's no voltage going through this thing. And so the flyback transformer is the first suspect. I'm going to also take a look at the capacitors around the flyback. So this is a flyback transformer. Be very careful. It puts out high voltage. We'll look at the capacitors around it, see if any are bulging or any scorch marks anywhere. But chances are we're going to need a new flyback transformer. So regardless, I'm going to go ahead and order one, whether we know that or not. I have capacitors, but I can always use a spare transformer, flyback transformer. All right, so let's do that. Take this thing apart, replace the flyback transformer, inspect the capacitors, and go from there. Okay, so what we're going to do here first is I'm going to fix the little door while I'm waiting for the flyback transformer to come in. So what ended up happening with this little door is couple of things. First of all, this little top piece here is broken. It has a crack here in the bottom, so this is kind of dangling. And then it's also missing the top half of this. It's supposed to look like this. So you can see it's missing this little piece that cracked off, and that's what usually happens with these doors. This piece cracks off, and then the door doesn't lock anymore. So what I did, basically, the reason I have this piece here is I cut this piece off right there, okay, on purpose, right there. And the reason being is I 3D printed another hinge, and this little recess that's here allows me to hold this hinge in place there. Rather than trying to glue a piece, what I would typically do in the past is take some baking soda and some super glue and make a little mix and kind of mold this piece back. But since the other little piece here was broken as well, I'm just like, you know what? I can just 3D print a new hinge. So that's what I did. I 3D printed a hinge, and this basically will slide right in there. Okay. And I'll just super glue it in place, and then I can reinforce it with epoxy around it if I want. So I think that will work, and then I'll just paint this the same color. So let's try this. Worst case scenario is it cracks off. So I already did this. You want to just clean it with some rubbing alcohol. Okay. And then glue the piece together so that way the two sides are clean. Okay, so I let this dry for about a minute, but I'm just going to let it sit overnight. Okay, so that's what that looks like. And it looks like it's lined up pretty well. I'm just going to put some epoxy around here because I don't trust just the super glue itself holding this. So I'll put some epoxy around the sides here. That's why I did this, because you can use the recess here to add a little bit more glue to keep this in place. It'll just be a nice extra adhesive to it. But so far it looks like it's going to work out just fine. Looks like it's going to slide in there just the way it should. It looks like it's lining up the way it should. So, all right, so we'll come back to this and hopefully have a working door again. All right, so stay tuned. Okay, so here we have the moment of truth. I've got this epoxied in a little bit around. I didn't want to just overdo it with the epoxy. This isn't going to be laterally stressed. It's just going to be vertically stressed. So it's just mainly just to hold it in place and keep it from popping out. So looks like everything is lined up. So here we go. Let's pop it in here. Okay. Boom. All right. There we go. So that was an easy fix. Just a little tiny bit off, but it's okay. Nice. All right. So we're still waiting for the flyback transformers coming from overseas, so we just have a little more wait on that. But at least we got this thing out of the way, so stay tuned. Okay, so I let this sit here for about a week and a half, and so I'm pretty confident that it's probably discharged by now, but nonetheless, we're going to discharge it as well using this method. So I have a screwdriver here, plastic handled. It's connected to ground, and I verified it with a no-meter that the screwdriver is connected to ground. So I'm just basically going to slide it in here underneath the little grommet, and I'm going to move it around and make sure it's touching There's a metal sheath, if you will, that's underneath here, holding the wire in place. So I'm just making sure that the screwdriver is touching that metal just by feeling it with the screwdriver. And be liberal in moving it around. And there it is. I can feel it right there. So that's another way to discharge this, is grounding that out, which we've done now. Like I say, you want to move this screwdriver around to make sure it's touching that little metal post, and you'll see what that looks like once I pop this out. So now that we've got that discharged, so to speak, get this off the ground. Okay, so there's little clips that go under, that are underneath. It's like these little clips that go like this, that hold this anode in place here. So if I lift this little plastic, or this little rubber thing up a little, I can see the clips, and I just push the clips to one side to get one free, and then the other one will come up. And so see, that's what it looks like. So you can see that these little clips spring together. Now I'm just going to be just a little extra cautious and take this, and I'm going to touch those against the ground. Okay, just in case. All right. And yeah, so I should be good to go. So when we put this back, basically we're going to push these two little clips together in order for this to slide back into the cathode. Okay, so I think we're ready to take out the bottom board now. I'm pretty confident that we've thoroughly discharged this thing, so stay tuned. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to slide the, I don't want to call it a motherboard, but the main board out. You can see that this main board just kind of slides out. There's a couple of things keeping it from sliding out. First of all, this has two wires soldered to it. These are ground wires. So we're going to unsolder these. Okay, so once we unsolder those, then we can look at pulling this board out. And we're going to have to unsolder this grounding. It looks like, you know, this grounding plate is also soldered on the top, and we need to take it out in order to get to the flyback transformer. In addition to that, we're going to need to unplug the plugs here, and we're going to need to pop this thing out. And it just kind of slide out. You just want to be careful. It's a round set of pins that it's being held onto there by the neck. So you're just going to slide, pop this thing out, okay? And then this board should be able to slide out, and we'll be able to look at it then. So let's start by unsoldering this, get out of the way, and also unplugging these guys right here. Okay, and then this thing here just kind of pops out. Just kind of wiggle it. I'm going to be real careful with this guy. There we go. Okay. So now we just got to unsolder this. There you go. All right. Now that I got those two pieces, this should slide out. I don't see anything else in the way here. Okay. There we go. All right. So this was a bit of a struggle. So I'm going to have to desolder some stuff here. I'm going to desolder there's one tab here. This tab's already popped out. Desolder the top here. And then I have another tab here on this side. So I got one there, one at the top you can't see, and another tab on the other side here that I have to desolder. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, there we go. All right. So now I could just bend this out. Okay, so here's the flyback transformer. These are the pins to the flyback transformer, and these two tabs hold the transformer casing, so to speak, in place. So we just have to push those in and pull this out after we unsolder these pins here. So I don't see any pins here that have cold solders or need soldering. So I'm thinking I'm just going to go ahead and take this transformer, this flyback transformer out and just replace it. All right. Okay, so now I'm just putting flux around all of these pins that are going to be unsoldering. Okay. Okay, that was an easy extraction. So here we've got our flyback transformer. Okay, pulled out. So we basically, on the new one, have to solder 1, 2, 3 wires back into it. And we may have to modify the pins because we got a substitute that's a little bit different, and one pin I think is off. So we'll do that next. Okay, so here's our new flyback transformer, and in looking at it, I'm looking at these two pins look right, these two pins look right, this one and these three. And the pin that is off is this last one right here at the top. So right here, the old flyback had it really close to this pin right here, but on this one it's a further out towards the edge of the case. So we're going to have to just drill a hole and kind of bodge this over. And yeah, so let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so to mark where that extra pin is going to go, I basically put some blue tape on the pin out of the new flyback transformer, and I'm just going to basically take this blue tape off of here and just line it up with the pins and the holes right here. Yeah. Okay. So now I know that this last pin right there, now I know that this all lined up, all the holes line up, so now I just need to look for where to drill that last pin over here. And there it is. Okay. All right, so I took out the old flyback transformer, right? So I unsoldered the gray wire, which is this wire that goes down and in here, and that's this guy here. Because I have the new flyback in, and I'll show that to you in a second. I had to take that board out and do it on my lap because pins on that flyback were really hard to put in. So, to line up, I should say. So anyways, so this gray wire is now the red wire coming from that flyback. And then this black wire here that goes from the flyback, it goes out the flyback and it comes into here. So there's two little tabs here on each side of this that hold this little case in. So you have to kind of pull the sides out and try not to crack or break this little case. So once you get the little sides out from the little tabs that hold it in place, this just slides right out. Okay. And here you will see that this wire is soldered down in there, and this thicker red one here is the one that we want to wire in down here. Now, I had cut this. I was going to splice this and not have to deal with that, but I'm just wondering if that would have been the smart thing to do or not very smart. So I'll play it safe here. Okay, so I need a little bit of light. So first thing I'm going to do is going to unsolder this guy and take this guy out. All right. Hear that click, and here's that click on the other side. All right. So now we're ready to put this all back. Little up to me. I had to unplug a bunch of wires here, so let's see if I can get this thing back. Remember how I got this back. Okay, put the shield back on. So let's go ahead and slide this back in place here. And we have to solder these guys back in place here. Okay, I've got the ground wires soldered back. And we need to put this back. Okay, moment of truth here. Well, that's a great sign. The light turns on. And I do have a computer hooked up to this right now. Okay, so in the back of the flyback transformer, remember there was two knobs. So let's, we set one, I actually set one really low, which is the screen. So let me bring the screen, let me turn this thing up. Okay, I'm turning the screen knob. Ah, look at that. Okay, the other knob is the focus. And let's turn that one. There we go. Now we got some focus there. All right. Color. Let's see here. Ah, there we go. Look at that. That's pretty bright blue. There we go. So you don't want to turn the screen pot on the flyback up too high, because see, it'll oversaturate. So you don't want to bring it down too low. So we're just going to bring it. I mean, I don't have a screen program, so we can tell the colors, but I'm going to leave it like that. That looks really, really good. Sorry for the overhead light reflection, but that is awesome. So there you go. We have a working 1084S monitor, and what happened is the telltale sign was the light wouldn't go on, and you hear a huge whining, a high-pitched whining noise coming from it. So we replaced the flyback transformer. The only thing we had to do is the replacement transformer we got. This is the original one. The pin was a little off. I think we had to move that one up and drill a little hole in the circuit board to make it fit. But that flyback transformer that we got was all of 38 bucks. So for $38, we now have a nice working system. So, all right. So that'll wrap up this one with the monitor. I'll put the case back on, and that'll be that. Let's see about getting back to the 128D system and go from there. All right. Stay tuned.